you brought an idea to my mind is another thing that I read in a book. It was the explanation of the sacred geometry, the flower of life symbol, and it's one thing that I use to kind of get my bearings in any times of my life that you may feel like stagnant or depressed or anything like that. But the way this was explained to me, and it brought it to my mind because when you talked about in these interconnected circles and things, and I don't know if you're familiar with that geometry shape, but it's that shape that's kind of interconnecting circles, and it kind of goes on for infinite, but you see it in shown in like a circular border pattern. But
almost like the Olympic rings?
Kind of like that, but it's a perfect pattern that is the same, and it goes on. And the way it was explained to me in this book, and it just really resonated with me, is if you were to imagine yourself in a void, and you have no references, no bearings, up, right, left, or right, what would be the first thing you would do if you found yourself in this void with no reference?
That happened to me.
Okay.
Back around the time I experienced the Emily Mind, back in '09, I think, I had this one vision, lay on the couch, meditate. Not that I'm seeing anything out there, but in my mind, I'm seeing almost like telling me a story. But in the story, I saw Emily. I didn't see her as an individual. I saw her as a consciousness that was helping me, taking me up into a mountaintop experience, looking out, and there was a black abyss, and it was shimmering. And the only I had no words for it, but I remember the only word, my takeaway, was non-existence. And what does that mean? It's just, I mean, I'm not my sense of self. So I looked at it, non-existence, but yet an overwhelming presence of love. Overwhelming. And then, out of that experience, the first thought I had, in other words, I'm in this transcendental experience, then all of a sudden, the first thought I had was, I'm going to begin to put myself back together. So the first thought was, oh, I'm in a body. And I began to almost like repurpose myself. I'm in this body at this time. These are my thoughts. This is where I'm at. Anyway, all those things we call life that we take for granted, I put the puzzle back together.
You're getting your bearings. Again.
Getting my bearings. So I don't know if that's similar to what you're saying.
Well, it kind of leads to the next step is in that void, and you mentioned shimmer of light. So I always use this as a aid when I'm sharing it with people. But if you're in a void, you're trying to get your bearings. Well, if you get your bearings all around you, what shape does that form in a void?
What shape does it form? I don't know.
So if you look around, and then you're kind of looking around into the horizon at this point, and so you might see little shimmering light in the distance or something in the distance. And as you start to get your bearings, that shape is a sphere in a 360 degree kind of, you have a horizon, endless horizon in all directions. And so that shape is a sphere. And then when you see that glimmering thing in the distance, that could be like an opportunity, and you make a choice. Do I go towards that shimmering thing in the distance? And so in the flower of life shape, first you create that sphere by getting your bearings. Now, once you've got your bearings, you have a choice. Do you go towards that shimmering thing in the distance, or do you stay in this place that you're comfortable? This is like a comfort zone in a way, but over time, if you stay in that place, you start to take things for granted, and it may become a little discomforting. But then if you choose to go towards that glimmer of light in the distance, that opportunity that comes in your purview, you then go toward the outer edge of that horizon. And then once you've gotten to that outer edge, then you repeat that process. You're in a different point of view, and then you recreate that process, then you've created two interconnecting spheres. And then as that pattern repeats itself, this web of experiences, you've kind of interlocked, and you could see things from different perspectives. And what they call in that flower of life shape, there's the part in between the two connecting spheres is like a seed shape. They call it, I think, the seed of life, or the Vesica Pisces. And it explains that in this book. It was explaining that once you've done that process, you've created this seed shape, this is the energy that gets you to continue on your journey of experiences. And the more you do that, the more energy you have to keep forging on in the darkness, kind of.
I don't have a clear answer for that, but here, when you mentioned, if I look in my mind to a glimmering light, and do I go towards it or not, I would say the glimmering light I would think of in my mind is my soul. And rather than going towards that, in my life experience, I basically said to my soul in a deep, dark night of the soul, so to speak, I don't know who I am, teach me who I am. And so that light, rather than me going toward, me opening up my mind, my heart, my whole experience, and let that light encompass me. In terms of a geometric sense, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, it just, for me, it's a good equation that if you're finding yourself getting stuck, then you could look back and you could recount, say, have I tried something new? Have I gone towards? Have I changed perspective in a way that might create energy to kind of continue on? So if you find yourself in any one given spot and you have a feeling of dis-ease or something, then maybe it's time to pursue that thing that you've been admiring from afar and then go towards it.